Welcome to the Matt and Dale podcast, episode 11.
And we have our special guest back with us, Sandra. Welcome back.
Hey everyone. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah.
Hey, Sandra.
Hey.
Yeah, no, it's awesome having you back because after that last episode with neurodiversity and how we can show up as good parents, that was such a really popular video. So we thought we'd have you back in here and talk about another topic, and that is how us as clinicians at Thrive take care of our own mental health. So we're good at guiding clients with their own mental health, but obviously we're human as well, and we have our own challenges. So what we're going to hopefully talk about is take turns and talk about how we take care of our own mental and emotional health, and maybe some tools and strategies that some of the viewers and listeners might be able to sort of take with them. Yeah.
Sounds great.
Awesome.
Yeah, well, who would like to go first and talk about what they like to do?
I feel like I'm happy to go first. I feel like as a special guest, there's a responsibility there to get to.
Fine by me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought this was a really interesting topic because I've had a few clients who have sort of said like, oh, your life must be perfect, or, you must never get sad, or do you even cry, and stuff like that. And so I thought it was a really important thing to highlight the humanness in the job that we do, because I think, especially if you're not familiar with therapy, there can be this idea of like you come in and you see a doctor who's very clinical and they're very like detached and that kind of thing. And I guess, that is a way of doing therapy. But it's not necessarily a way that I do therapy. So yeah, it's sort of it does take a lot out of you when you're sitting with and holding very deeply painful and very big experiences that a lot of people are moving through. So it does, it's ever since I've become a clinician, I've realized how much energy I have to put into my own self-regulation and my own self-care, which in previous careers I didn't necessarily have to be so conscious of. So yeah, I guess for me it's like a lot of people love routines. I'm not a routine person, so for me it changes a lot. Sometimes I'll do journaling really intensely, like every day for like 3 months, and then I'm like, right, cool, I'm done with that, I'm over it. At the moment I'm trying to get to a morning yoga class. I think for me personally, I'm an early morning person, so getting up early, even though I hate it, makes me feel really good once I'm up. So yeah, I went to yoga this morning, and when I left, like I hated getting up, I hated going, it was cold, I wanted to be in bed, but once I left, I felt amazing. So doing things for myself, even though it doesn't necessarily feel good at the time, is a really important one for me. And social support, like I think it's a really something that I've been trying to figure out is like, what are the self-care things that work for me? And for me, social connection's a really big one, which I guess is why I'm in a job where I talk to and connect with people every day. And so creating a social network where I can, show up authentically when I'm not feeling great, or if, obviously we don't discuss client issues, but if I can just say like, I had a really heavy day at work today, or, I really struggled with an issue at work today, or I'm, just not feeling great, or, that kind of thing, to be able to show up authentically is a really good form of self-care for me.
Yeah. Why do you think that is so important, having a workplace where you can express that?
I get that's a really good question. I think for some people it probably isn't as important. I don't think it's necessarily important for everybody. I think for me, it takes a lot of energy to like, because I'm quite like I like to think of myself as quite an energetic, positive person in general, but obviously I'm not a robot, so that's not always static. And so I think to have to push myself to be like that all the time, it just takes a lot of energy, which then how do I explain it? It's sort of like I don't know if everyone's familiar with spoon theory, like everyone gets a certain amount of spoons, and might take 3 spoons to have a shower and 4 spoons to do the dishes, and if you've only got 7 spoons, that's all your spoons. And so I feel like if I'm already feeling down having to cover up the fact that I'm feeling down and then pretend that I'm okay. It just takes more energy, which means that I then don't have the spoons to care for myself when I'm feeling down anyway. Um, yeah, so I think authenticity is a good form of self-care for me. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes
Complete
so much
sense.
sense. Yeah, I really love that
I'm
spoon
writing
theory.
notes just to kind of go,
Yeah,
yep,
Yeah.
that's me, that's me.
Yeah.
I
lucky.
love the work one too, because
Mm,
because I think you kind of move from, I mean, I like the yoga in the morning,
mm,
tick, do the same thing. The social, authentic
mhm,
communication, which obviously I think in this pod, what we're doing is really, I really get a lot of benefit out of it just for that reason, because we're able to be really authentic, right? And then to be able to, as I said, really move that into the workplace where we spend, I don't know, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, or whatever you do,
mm.
so important. So yeah, I really related to what you just said. Really related.
Yeah, I think it's really important. Like people look for different things in workplaces, and some people are really career driven and they want to get promotions, and some people are really status driven, and and none of those things are wrong necessarily. Um, but when you turn up to a workplace and you're there for 40, 60, however many hours a week, if you hate it and if you can't be yourself, that's a lot of time that you're having to pretend, you know?
It
It's
really is.
it's a
Yeah.
lot of energy.
Yeah, I think particularly what we do, because part of, I guess, how we operate, we need to be congruent with our clients, right?
Mhm.
So if we don't get the opportunity to practice that, like being in a very guarded work environment,
Mhm.
that would be very difficult. You know what I mean? It's almost like we're so practiced at being congruent that it's just naturally there when we go into our client interactions. So I think that's what Thrive does as well, right? Yeah. But no, I really dug what you said. I think, yeah, I agree with it. What about you, Matt? What do you
We're
do?
definitely we're definitely we definitely have similarities. I feel like all three of us in that regard. I'm definitely, I mean, I hate using the terms morning person and afternoon person, but definitely for me, a lot of my energy, like as soon as I wake up, I usually wake up at about sort of 5 a.m. And that's when I feel like I have so much energy and I feel quite creative at that time. So like I'm not a big journaler either, but sometimes I do get a lot of inspiration. I just start sort of, I don't know, writing poems or writing down my values because I'm really into acceptance commitment therapy, which is all about following our values while having any thought and any feeling and sensation. So I try and write down my values and think, how am I going to align to these today? So I'll do that in the morning. Sometimes I'll do a bit of yoga, and my two cats, Peanut and Pickles, they love it when I get on the ground and start doing yoga poses, and they start meowing and purring. And for me, that's like pure happiness when I start to hear that. I'm moving my body, I'm listening to them, and even better when the sun is rising in the morning too. So a lot of gratitude for that. And I try and think of three things that happened the day before that I was really thankful for. And for some reason, I don't know, like synchronicity can be big for me. I think of things in threes. So I'll think of like three things the day before that, were really good. Three values of mine, and then I'll think of three things that I'm just always forever grateful for in my life. So I'll go through those pretty well every morning. I know, Sandra, you said you're not really much into routine.
Yeah.
I think I'm very much a routine person. And I think a lot of that's probably, I know it gives me a sense of control. Maybe if I'm feeling a bit anxious, I'm naturally quite a pretty anxious sort of a person. So I think that sort of makes me feel like I'm a little bit more in control and a bit clearer and gives me a bit of guidance. Yeah, so that really helps me. And then usually go to the gym in the morning too. So I get a lot done in a short amount of time. So pretty well from 5 o'clock till 9 o'clock. That's like my time. to really recharge myself. So I'll be doing the yoga, I'll be going to the gym and lifting some weights or doing some cardio. And then if I've got time, I'll actually go into the sauna and the spa as well. But I haven't been doing that as much lately. Yeah, so for me, that's definitely the morning is where I like to utilize all that energy. And then when I show up and see clients, I just feel really fresh and just ready to go. But it's really funny. I sort of, because that's such a big day, what I've found is I usually conk out at sort of 6 or 7 o'clock. I'm almost like winding up ready for bed. Uh, yeah, which is really good. Which can be really hard too, because my wife, she has a lot of energy at night. So it's really interesting to see that dynamic. Yeah, where I'm sort of winding down, but you can see that she's getting her energy at night. So it's kind of meeting in the middle there as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
and like what you said too, I think coming to a workplace where I can fully be my authentic self,
Mm.
I think is really cool. Like when I was building, if you did a stuff up or something, everyone would get into you. But here, if you had a really tough client, you talk about it after, and I just feel really safe at Thrive, and just really, it's almost like I'm being held by the organisation, which for me is I didn't realise how important that was until I went from the construction industry into the mental health and well-being spot. So I'm just like Thrive is definitely makes my top three most mornings for what I'm grateful for. So yeah, I'm just really thankful to be part of this organization and with you guys as well.
Yeah, it's really great, Matt. I just yeah, it was also like regarding Thrive, and I know we're not just talking about Thrive, but it's a big part of, I know who I am and what I do. But I actually, and I think Sandra, you said, some people go for ambition and that sort of thing. I think you can be ambitious within our organization too, yet the ambitions almost align to who we are in a much more authentic way. And what I love about Thrive is that you're able to almost create your own niche. You are able to create your own niche, whatever you want to do, really. I mean, typically in a therapeutic space, obviously, but you know, and that to me is gold coming from, I don't know, speaking for myself, who's worked for many toxic environments over the course of my career, and some good ones as well, but certainly Thrive is head and shoulders, I think, above all the rest in terms of kind of being an empowering, environment where you can be really self-sovereign and develop in line with who you are. So, and it's respected and empowered and all that sort of stuff. So, but yeah, that's important. It's interesting touching also on, partners as well, of which I have my wife as well. And yeah, because that's an important dynamic, because that's someone who clearly I spend a lot of time with, and that's in my space along with my dogs as well. And to be able to be in relationship with my primary partner and for that relationship to empower me is really a really important part of my well-being as well. Um, and I suppose, within that relationship, we've had to do a lot of work on our individual selves to get it to that point. But even when we have like a disagreement, there's something wonderful that happens in a true partnership, which I don't know, it just really fills my system, my well-being, and makes my boat float higher or something like that, for want of a better phrase. So I don't know how to describe that one, but that's also a critical part of
Mm.
my kind of well-being, general life.
Yeah, it's interesting, Dale, that you're sort of going back to what you were saying before about how our well-being and being able to show up authentically and have connection that's authentic and that kind of stuff impacts how we are as clinicians. Because I think, depending on your modality and your training and all that kind of stuff, like there's a debate around whether you bring your whole self or do you bring, do you do the blank slate thing? And it's a really interesting thing to kind of consider. Well, I am a person in the world, and how do I want to show up for clients, and how do those two things overlap, and how do I manage the comfort that I have with that overlap, and disclosure and
Yeah.
all of those things. It's yeah, it's been something. I'm a lot more conservative with disclosure than I think you guys are in terms of talking about my personal life with clients. But I've had clients turn up early and they've seen me chatting to the receptionist or chatting to another client, and they've seen how I am in relationship to others, or, singing is one of my self-regulation strategies. So I remember I was doing notes one day, sitting in my office doing notes, waiting for a client to come in, didn't hear them come in. Usually we hear the door shut and I didn't hear them come in. So I was singing away to myself, and then I went out to go and get them and they were like, "Were you singing?"
Ah,
And so it was like that moment of like, oh,
that was a bit of
so was.
disclosure.
Yeah, it's sort of, and completely unintentional because I thought the waiting room was empty.
Yeah.
And yeah, then having that conversation around, well, yeah, I self-regulate through singing because, and there's all sorts of science around like breath control and vagus nerve activation and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, disclosing like, yes, I like to sing, like people, yeah, there's really different ways of being authentic in the room, and how you
Sure.
disclose yourself, and whether you do or don't, or it's a really tricky thing
Yeah.
to figure out.
I agree, and I think you can still, like you say, you can err on less
Mm.
self-disclosure or more or none at all,
Yeah.
and I still think you can be authentic in a
Mm.
room,
Absolutely.
right? If that's who you, I guess, naturally are and what you're practiced at, I think that can just literally come off in a room without giving
Mm.
too much of yourself away, I suppose. That's what
Mm.
I think anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and Sandra, I'm curious to know, is that because of your psych background? Do you feel like boundaries are probably, um, how do I say it?
Emphasized?
Yeah, emphasize, because with counseling, uh, I suppose it's maybe, I feel like authenticity and, uh, personal stories. Yeah, I feel like it's almost like I learned that through my studies that it's a positive thing.
Mm.
But what I've heard from, say, psychologists with their studies, yeah, they're told that no, you very much need to use your therapist hat in here. You can't be bringing your stuff into session. And have I got that wrong? Or
No, I think you're pretty right. I think, and obviously I'm not an expert, but the gut feeling I get is that counseling is kind of the most liberal with self-disclosure, and psych is the most conservative, and social work kind of sits in the middle somewhere.
yeah,
Um,
okay, that's a
so
good
with
way to put it.
psych, yeah, with psych, it's sort of like self-disclosure is allowed, and in some ways is inevitable, whether someone's wearing a wedding ring or not. If a client sees you pull up in the car, they know what kind of car you drive, which gives an indication of your social, financial status, that kind of stuff. Some sort of self-disclosure is inevitable, but with psych, there's very much an emphasis on if I'm disclosing something, it has to be for the benefit of the client. Which, I think most people would have that in mind, but it's very much like this one bit of information about me needs to serve you in this very one specific way. And then we go back to talking about the client because it's their session. And so I think it's a really, yeah, and like I said, like I'm still in training, so I'm still kind of figuring out my boundaries, and so I'm erring on the side of caution.
Yeah,
But also I found there's not a lot of need for me to disclose things about myself in order to have the impact that I want to have, to share any
sure.
information, or, it doesn't necessarily have to be my story.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's
Yeah.
asking ourselves the question, am I saying this because I want to tell someone,
Yeah.
or am I telling them this because I think it's going to be really beneficial on their journey?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think normalizing is a big one. If someone's going through depression or if someone's going through a life transition, having someone say, yeah, I actually do get it because I've been there too, can be really helpful.
Mm.
But also, is that needed? Does that particular client need to know that you specifically have been through that? Do they already know that other people go through those things? Yeah. Are there other ways to achieve that goal?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can also open yourself up to boundary issues too,
Mm.
clearly, if you become too personal in a
Yeah.
session.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, we're supposed to have there's not supposed to be a power imbalance in session. That's what I've always come out with from at least my counseling studies and practice. Um, but you want to be sure that if you're opening up something around something personal, it doesn't start to impede on that professional relationship,
Mm,
which can happen.
mm,
But I've also found it's a bit of trial and error too, right? Like sometimes you might err in saying a bit too much, and then the next time you learn from that, and you start to
mm,
refine things as you go forward, and I think it's okay.
mm.
I really love how we've drifted completely off the, but it's still kind of related, isn't it?
Mm.
For
Like
sure.
Yeah.
all this is very much related.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
I think
this is
boundaries, I
all.
think self-care.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
mean, it's all about it's all about social connection, isn't it? I mean, this is
Yeah,
kind of quasi work, social connection, whatever you want to call it, but it's also very authentic, in
yeah.
terms of how we are describing how we come across in a professional setting, but also a personal setting as well. So,
Mm.
um, yeah, it's all therapy.
Mm.
Life's one big therapy.
And it's interesting depending on the client as well, like how the client reacts. I had a client recently that I tripped over, like I was just walking across the room and I tripped and fell over in this session, like just,
Yeah,
completely randomly. And they loved it.
as you do.
Yeah, like I'm human, I'm clumsy, it happens.
Yeah,
And they absolutely loved it because
yeah,
and it opened up this whole conversation about, well, you've just made a mistake and that's been okay. So now I feel like I can be imperfect.
yeah.
And it was this really lovely, um, yeah, really lovely moment that had come out of me just tripping over my feet. Like, yeah.
You were
And it,
vulnerable.
Humility is a great icebreaker, right?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
I love that
um,
story.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic. Yeah, well, yeah, look, we're coming up to probably, the mark where we say goodbye to everyone. But before we leave, I just want to know what's the one most important thing for each of you in terms of great mental health? If you got to pick one that's like the biggest thing.
Can I pick two?
Okay, you can pick two. Yeah,
I think for me, play is really important. Like I really
yeah,
prioritize play as an adult. Because I think it's something that when you're a kid, you're allowed to play, but as an adult, play brings so much joy and freedom and spontaneity. And so I really prioritize play in my life.
yeah,
But my second one, and the one that immediately came to mind when you asked that question was for me allowing myself to not be rigid in what self-care looks like is really
yeah,
important.
yeah,
Sometimes I have lots of energy and I exercise a lot and I'm
yeah,
up early and I'm doing all the things. And sometimes self-care is like watching a movie every night that
yeah,
makes my brain switch off.
yeah.
It's having that fluidity and the freedom to follow my energy levels is really good self-care for me.
It's interesting. Is that why you said you're not really big into routines? So you can
Yeah.
give yourself that permission?
Yeah, because when you were
And
saying like it gives me, it helps me contain and all the things you
yeah,
were saying about
you're
routine, I
like,
was like, that's what I
"What?"
hate. I need freedom. I need,
Yeah, yeah.
lateral kind of, yeah.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Because I see
Yeah.
routine as giving me freedom. When
Oh,
I've
interesting.
when I've got routine and I feel like that's energizing me, it gives me freedom to do whatever I want that day. Like I feel like
Yeah.
yeah. So for me, routine actually gives me freedom. It's the other
Oh,
way
I find it
around.
constricting. I find it so rigid and like, and maybe that's how we approach routine. Maybe I'm just, I know I'm a very all or nothing person. So I'm like, if I'm in routine and I'm in routine.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm,
interesting.
yeah. What about you, Dale? One or two things that you could like put right up the top as like,
Oh,
yeah,
well,
good
I'll
ones.
touch on the theme you just touched on around, I'll call it boundaries to gain freedom. I actually think I need boundaries in my life to have freedom. And I've really learnt that through my faith. So my faith is my number one, which is, yeah, probably a whole nother story, but like it's so important for me. And, that's through prayer and all the other various things that I do. So, um, but yeah, I love that whole thing around, I think for me, boundaries are important to experience freedom.
Boundaries. Yeah, I really like
Yeah.
that.
I can't just do what my egoic self wants to do. Otherwise, I'm not going to feel very free.
Yeah, yeah. Mm.
But you, Matt, is routine
Yeah.
important or is
What's
it
yours?
something else?
Definitely exercise, like moving the body, whether that's yoga or gym or going for a run, even just like stretching, you know. So definitely moving the body and self-awareness.
Mm.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Self-awareness is right up there for me, I would say.
If you're practicing self-awareness as self-care, what does that look like? How do you do that?
Well, noticing, when I'm getting to that point where I'm starting to burn out, like, or when I need to give myself some love or, some playfulness or so without that self-awareness, it's too late.
Yeah,
Uh,
nice.
I, and I, I compare this to watering a garden. We don't wait until the garden's dead before watering. We continue to water it.
Mm.
So for me, without having that self-awareness, I'm not really watering my garden
Yeah,
because
nice.
Ah,
I
I
won't
love
really
that.
know. I won't really know when to water it, and I'll just wait till it's too late. I'm like, oh, I'm burnt out. Now I'll practice self-care.
Mm.
Yeah. So for me, having that self-awareness gives me that ability to have self-care before it's too late.
It's a really good analogy because I am attempting to be a gardener. I'm not great at it. But I immediately, as you were talking about that, I was like, yeah, because you've got to learn, like, tomatoes need a lot of water and carrots don't need as much or, whatever. And so that process, I think when people talk about self-care, it's this like, oh, just go have a bubble bath and you'll feel better. But it can take time to kind of figure out how much water your garden needs and what it needs and doesn't need. I'm running out of steam with this gardening analogy, but um, what nutrients does it need? And it can
Yeah,
take
you're
time to kind of figure
keep
that out.
going, keep
Yeah.
going.
This is a good insight into what my sessions look like.
Yeah,
There's so many
I
great
love that. I love
gardening.
that analogy, by the way.
Yeah.
There's so many great garden analogies. Another one I like to use is uh, if we spend all of our time trying to pull out the weeds, we forget to water the garden.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, yeah. And that comes from a very acceptance commitment therapy
That's
kind
apt.
of
Yeah, yeah,
model.
for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. Put all of our energy trying to get rid of
Cool.
something when we could just be watering what's already
Yeah,
there.
nice.
Well, yeah, even appreciating, and maybe that follows on from that appreciating what we have as
Mm.
well, rather than looking for the problem. Don't know. That came up for me.
Oh,
Not
it's
sure if
beautiful.
that's,
Yeah.
Mm.
No,
yeah.
no, definitely. Well, gratitude has been shown to be really effective for mental health.
Mm.
So
Because
there's actually evidence behind having gratitude every day.
Mm.
yeah, I was just on that theme as well, I think, and I know we're going to finish up, but yeah, if you look at, I don't know, this is perhaps a take on it, but if I always, and I sometimes weave this into sessions too, often it's that, 1, 2% that we're hypnotized around, which is the negative, yet we don't see the 97, 8% that's gone so good. It's that
Yeah.
one relationship that's not working,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
the other ones are all going fine.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway,
Keeps
blah, blah.
keeps us safe to remember
Yeah.
it.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks, guys. It's been really nice to catch up again for episode 12. And yeah, Sandra, I'm sure that won't be the last time we'll see you. That's for
Yeah, I'll come
sure.
back. Yeah.
Yeah, you've really fitted in to the crew quite
Thank you.
nicely, to be honest.
Oh,
Yeah,
thanks.
I
Yeah, it's
agree.
been awesome having you on, and I'm sure the community really appreciate it too. And we've had some really great feedback after the last one, and I'm sure we'll get similar for this one. So really
Yeah, I hope so.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Matt. Thanks, Sandra.
If you or someone that you know needs immediate support, please see on the screen a list of hotlines you can call. And to book in with a clinician at Thrive, you can phone the reception or book online. And remember, you're never alone.